So I guess Max, thanks for joining us, my guy.
Of
I guess we're
course.
just going to start off by letting you kind of tell your little story. That's what we do, and then Dan said, or we kind of thought we are going to dive into some kind of what y'all are dealing with now, and then your competitive mindset, if that sounds cool with you.
Yeah, let's do
Yeah.
it.
I do, real quick before we start, though, I do have an announcement that I want to make. Okay, so this podcast is sponsored by the Melting Pot, and last night I made a trip there. And let me tell you, close the place.
Yeah.
I went after 9 for the unlimited chocolate fondue and stuff.
Okay, I didn't even know that.
Oh, yes.
You got a promo code?
It's $12 after 9. Who's our waiter? What's his name? Do you remember? Alex. Alex said we could come back whenever we want.
If they got
Noted.
any chocolate left.
Very hospitable.
Yes, and it was a complete domination on my end. He's like, "Are you sure you want another one?" And I'm like, "Yes, I want the yin and yang, which is the white chocolate mixed with the dark chocolate, and I'll take extra strawberries." But anyways, they want to have us back, so I just want to say I went to the melting pot again, and it is just as good as when Mitch described it.
Promo code the Express.
Yes,
It's not gonna do anything, but just type it in and see
just
what
type
happens.
it in and see what happens, and it's here. It's fantastic, 5 stars. But anyways, Max, sorry. Go ahead and start us off. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your story and how you got to doing what you're doing.
Alrighty. Born and raised in Los Angeles. Kind of, for me, it's always been a big family guy. This has always been kind of a homebody. So family's always been extremely important to me. Just being able to have a good relationship with my parents and my brothers. I got 2 brothers, and I have an older brother that's 9 years older than me that played baseball, and he ended up playing at college at USC. So my whole entire life, all I remember is, going to his games, watching him, playing on the fields next to his field. So for my whole life, it's always been being active, watching baseball, and just playing sports. So when I got old enough to get to the point where, I could play for myself, once I started, I never stopped. And talking to Dansby a lot, it's one thing that we have in common is we always played multiple sports growing up. So for me, I always played basketball, football, and baseball every season. Liked playing quarterback, 2 guard, 2. I was a 2 and a 3 in basketball, and obviously stuck to mostly outfield and first base in baseball. But yeah, I just had some really good role models looking up to, being able to have my older brother as like a good first role model of, working hard and being able to play in college and seeing something that was maybe feasible. But yeah, I mean, just kind of was playing 3 sports, was pitching in one random summer league game that a scout just happened to be at, and he invited me out to a showcase tournament, and I showed up one day as, I think it was like a 15-year-old with, I think it's equivalent to the area code games, which was like the East Coast Pro, but for
Which
the
is
West Coast mostly.
Yeah, which is for like people that don't know, like it's usually like the bigger like showcases basically for like high school kids that are seen as like the better players of their age group basically. So the East Coast Pro is mainly guys like the Southeast and the whole like up East Coast, New York, and we all like kind of have your own regional team. There's like 5 or 6 teams, and you play against each other for like a little like round robin. And then area codes is developed into a little bit more of like kind of everybody, but it's held on the West Coast. So it's mainly West Coast guys with the exception of some people from like the Midwest and the South and stuff like that. So
yeah. So just random summer league game. They asked me if I wanted to go try out in 2 days. So I was like, okay. Went out there and somehow ended up making that team. And that was kind of my first taste in saying that like, oh, baseball might actually be something that I could do. I've always enjoyed it and I was always pretty good at it, but I never really thought it would have been like an actual reality for me to get drafted or even get college looks. So that was kind of my first taste at that. I played played basketball up until my junior year of high school. And then for me, my high school that I went to, my 7th to 11th grade, actually shut down. The school closed down. So I was essentially like a free agent in high school sports. And I had all these different schools kind of like either reaching out to me or saying that they wanted me to come. Ended up picking Harvard Westlake, where I ended up going to school with, Lucas Giolito and Jack Flaherty. And yeah, finished up my high school there, kind of gave it my one shot to say, like, I'm going to see if I can get drafted. And it kind of all came together. Ended up getting drafted and kind of took it off from there. It's never since. I don't know, it's been a whirlwind. I can't believe it's already been 8 years.
That is crazy.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say too. Like, people that don't really understand what he just said. So Giolito, who's the ace for the White Sox, and then Jack Flaherty, who's the ace for the Cardinals, and Max, we're all on the same high school baseball team. And it still blows my mind to this day that they basically had 3 first-round pitchers on
Please tell me y'all won state, bro.
They didn't win state, dude. They didn't win. I give him so much trash on that all the time.
People say that about me and Dansby being on the same team. They're like, Mitch, Dansby, how did y'all not win state?
Yeah, it was a weird year because, I mean, Southern California baseball is really good, but Lucas got hurt in our first or second game of the year. I think it was like a second start of regular season, and he hurt his elbow, which ended up leading him to getting Tommy John. But Jack was a sophomore. He's a couple years younger than us. So, I mean, he came in, filled in his shoes, and to this day, he's probably the best high school pitcher that I've ever seen or witnessed. I think his numbers are ridiculous. So he stepped in and did an unbelievable job. But, we in playoffs, it was like the second round, and I think we got beat like 2-1 or 1-0. It's just one of those games. But
that's crazy. I've never heard
it's definitely fun.
I know it happens like high school's closing down, but that's crazy. You could just kind of go wherever from there.
Yeah, so it was like the private, or it was like a small private school, and it was just one of those things where couldn't fund it anymore, and they essentially, the school didn't shut down the next year, but they shut down all the extracurricular programs. So everything from athletics to drama to the musical, like everything that would have been extracurricular if you wanted to do it was no longer being funded. So they gave it like a free out, saying if you want to go somewhere, we'll help you go. And I was lucky enough, Harvard Westlake, granted me admission, and I spent my last year there. So it was definitely kind of a whirlwind 12 months between the time that I had to find a new school and then getting drafted. So that 17, 18-year-old year was definitely a little interesting.
Yeah. Go over, talk a little bit about your like college recruiting experience, because I know you were committed to UCLA. Obviously got drafted by the Padres in the first round in 2012. But kind of go over a little bit like the college recruiting, because our story maybe is like very similar in certain regards, but also a little bit different. I feel like you were a little bit more sought after than I was, like growing up and stuff. So just kind of go over a little bit of like how you end up deciding UCLA and why you decided to go pro, instead of take the college route and all those things.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of that same thing of that area code tryout was the first time I was really exposed to colleges and scouts and all that kind of stuff. So after that, I started getting some interest. Being from LA and on the West Coast and having strong ties to my family, I kind of initially was like, I only want to be on the West Coast. I only want to go to college on the West Coast. I want to be close to home, that kind of thing. I got some interest in UCLA, and at that time, going through, it was mostly, it pretty much came down to, I think it was like USC, UCLA, and Stanford. I ended up, the year that I was getting recruited was the year that UCLA had Trevor Bauer and Garrett Cole there. They were both drafted, it was like number 1 and number 3. I went to a practice and was able to have like a conversation with Garrett Cole, like at a practice, and he told me how great it was, how much he loved it. And I mean, when a guy like that kind of talks to you for, I don't even know, it was like maybe a minute, but just having him being able to say like, this is the place that, was a first round pick. I ended up electing to come to school. I got better. I matured and all those kinds of things. It kind of put it in perspective. I was, at the time, he still is, John Savage is one of the best pitching coaches in the country. So to be able to go there, I knew that I was going to be in good hands. So I kind of ended up picking there. It didn't hurt that at the time Lucas was also committed there, someone I was familiar with. I knew a couple other guys that I was played that summer ball circuit with they were also committed. So I felt comfortable. It was close by, and also kind of helped that, my older brother went to college right nearby at USC. So it was just kind of comfortable for me. And then, what was the second part of that question, Dansby? I'm sorry.
Well, it's just so you end up deciding to go pro or whatever. And I know a lot of our stories are somewhat similar because you got drafted by the Padres, and then you ended up, how early on did you end up getting Tommy John?
So I got drafted in 2012. I played a full year in 2013 in Fort Wayne. My 19-year-old year, I played low A in Fort Wayne. And then that off season was totally fine. I threw a couple bullpens and kind of just wasn't feeling great. 2014, I came in and just couldn't get it going. My forearm elbow was just kind of bothering me, kind of just going through the motions, trying to build up rehab. Ended up, it was July, ended up coming back and went back to Fort Wayne to kind of get a couple starts to be able to get back into the season, start pitching and building up. And then I ended up getting Tommy John. So I think I only threw a total of 10 innings in 2014. I got Tommy John in August and was rehabbing at home in that off season and got let know in December that I got traded to the Braves. So it was I want to say it was 3 or 4 months into Tommy John. I still hadn't thrown a ball yet and kind of just got woken up and, I got woke up by I think it was my parents, and they're just they said that on the TV that you got traded. Have you gotten a call or anything? I was like, nope, I haven't seen anything. Looked at my phone, went through a whole workout that morning and was kind of checking my phone periodically. I ended up getting a phone call to that afternoon, but it's kind of that weird experience of you're hurt, you're not really able to play, but you're still getting traded. And I think I got a call. My first call was from Jonathan Shearholtz, and he was just excited to have you. I think our plan initially is that you're just gonna take this whole year off, so you're just gonna rehab, not even think about coming back. We're gonna take this thing slow, and then you'll get ready to go for 2017 or 2016 because it was 2015. So just showed up in, I think it was February or late January. I showed up in Orlando for my first time, and it was close to 8 or 9 months in Orlando rehabbing.
And the trade, were you Kimbrel?
No, it was Justin Upton. It was me, Malik Smith, Jace Peterson, and Dustin Peterson.
Yeah. Which was,
it's a squad, though.
It was a pretty good.
Malik Smith had burners, bro. Malik Smith had burners.
Yeah.
Malik's fast. He's always been fast.
Yeah, it was a good trade, obviously.
But that's kind of crazy, too, because, Dansby, I'm pretty sure experienced something similar, too. You were, at dinner or something, and, someone texted you.
Yeah, I was at dinner, and I didn't get a phone call either. My phone was, blowing up. I was at dinner with because I was still, a free agent in, the whole, apparel realm, Adidas, Under Armour, Nike, New Balance, all that stuff. And I was out to dinner with these Nike reps, the head of the baseball division, one of my good buddies who works at Nike, who I got to know when I was out in Portland, and then another high up rep with Nike. And we were sitting there at dinner. My phone's blowing up, but I'm obviously not gonna check my phone at this important dinner, you know. And one of them had to go to the bathroom, and so one of the other guys at the table pulled out his phone to check something. So I was all right, I'm just gonna see what this is about. And the first text I saw was from a guy that used to do some baseball scouting operations stuff at Vandy, and at the time he was a scout for the Cubs, I want to say. And the only thing I saw of the text message was, "Is it true?" And I'm like, bro, like that's the worst. Like, is what true? Because that's the worst.
That could mean a lot of things.
That could, yeah, that's a broad text. So I was like, what do you mean? And he sent back a screenshot from Twitter that said that like Shelby Miller had been traded to the Diamondbacks, and that me, Ender, and Aaron Blair were going to Atlanta. And I was like, I have no idea. Like, if that's on Twitter, like by like verified like accounts and sources, then seems pretty true to me. But so I called. At that moment, like dinner was like not over, but it was kind of like, because I think they had kind of heard too. And so I was like, hey, yeah, I just need to like go make a phone call real quick. So I went and called my agent, and he was like, well, we've been in meetings with for Jason Hayward, because he was a free agent that offseason. So like we've been in meetings, and like no one like really knows. And they're like, we're kind of like, all of our meetings are like put on hold, and we're going to figure out and find out like what's going on. So they ended up calling me back and saying that it was true. And so dinner was like pretty much over. Like at that point, like dinner, like it was a great dinner, but it was over. And the crazy thing too is, so I was in Nashville, obviously, for that off season, and the winter meetings were taking place in Nashville. So like it literally, like I got traded like 20 minutes down the road from where I was sitting, you know. But yeah, it's just crazy like how our stories like pretty similar, just as far as like come up playing multiple sports, and like see the importance of playing multiple sports, and how awesome and how much of a leg up you can have by having such a strong like family, you know, and having, you know, such a strong like bond with the people that you're closest to, like in your lives. And then like moving forward in the professional career, like you learn real early on, it's business, you know, and getting traded. And then like we get traded to the same place, you know. And like in the beginning, it was funny. In the beginning, me and Max, like we're the same age, and we graduated high school at the same time. Like we're all 2012 graduates, and like we didn't really like know each other, or like even really know of each other, which was like crazy because we both played like summer ball, you know, and usually the baseball world's pretty small. And like at first we weren't like that close. And then he got called up, and it was kind of like one of those things, because this was when our team was a little bit older. And so it was like kind of like me and him were like kind of like the young kids, you know, and we kind of just like gravitated towards one another. And then it just like led to all of last year. We like sat, we were plane buddies. So we sat next to each other on the plane, like on our charter flights. Shout out Delta. So yeah, we'd sit next to each other, and like we've developed like a really great friendship since then. But it's just like crazy how like we have the same stories, just from opposite sides of the coast, and how it's kind of like we're at the same spot now.
I want to kind of go back to the trade too. I know Dansby was able to kind of like use that almost as like a chip on the shoulder type deal. I just wanted you to kind of talk about your mindset, like having gone through, you know, when you get drafted, you think of like, you know, having a whole career at, you know, one place, and, you know, they drafted you, they want you. And so all you think about is thriving there, and then, you know, wake up one morning and you're not on that team anymore. So I just want to talk about like your mindset and kind of how you use that as fuel or to your advantage or whatever.
So it was definitely, I was thrown off by it, honestly. At the beginning, I wasn't really sure how to feel. I'm someone that's very routine oriented and likes being comfortable in my surroundings. You know, I don't like feeling out of place. So for me to just kind of go at this time, you know, I was in Arizona spring training. It was a West Coast team. It was all pretty comfortable for me. And then it was like, hey, you're flying across the country, and, you know, figure it out. And I didn't really know too many people. I think the only person I knew with the Braves at that time when I got traded was Lucas Sims. We played with each other. So I really only knew one person. I had to kind of get outside of my box, outside of my comfort zone, and kind of just learn to grow. And to be honest, looking back on it, the trade was probably the best thing that happened to me, just because it gave me kind of a clean slate. I was able to be the person that kind of I wanted to be, instead of any kind of like preconceived notions at my other place. No one really knew of me. So I kind of was able to come in, and it almost felt the same way when I went into Harbor Westlake, where, you know, I was kind of just that new kid, didn't really know anyone. You know, I was able to kind of just flourish and just be who I wanted to be, instead of, you know, having previous years of people kind of have an idea about you. So you're kind of, it's a new clean slate. And from there I was kind of able to take off. It was a little rough at the beginning, but the one thing that I do have to give about the Braves and the guys that we have is we have some unbelievable people and like really good teammates that are there to support you. Good, bad, or indifferent. Like, you have guys that have your back, and, you know, that can actually genuinely care, because a lot of the times you can get to a lot of just independence in baseball where everyone's kind of out for themselves, and, you know, it can be that way. But for the most part, the culture that we've created here, it's kind of been in this way since, you know, I could ever remember, even going back to, you know, watching the Braves in the 90s and stuff. It's always kind of been this family team environment that's kind of just allowed guys to be themselves and take off.
Yeah. And one thing I'm going to point out too, that he said that, you know, because obviously this podcast, like, we're all always about trying to empower and, you know, and better people's lives or whatever. And, you know, just talking about like getting traded. Not many people understand what it feels like to get traded, because, you know, they're not professionals where you were to get traded to another team. And there's always two ways that you can take it. And, you know, and it really goes with anything, like, you know, your boyfriend, girlfriend dumps you, this and that. Like, there's so many different things where, like, there's two different ways you can look at it. One of them, and I feel like is always the initial, like, thing that you have to get past, is that when you get traded, like, it's easy to look and say, oh, this team, like, doesn't want me. This team doesn't think I'm, like, valuable. This team, like, they never cared about me anyways. Or, like, for me, being loyalty being such a big thing, like, wow, this team is so disloyal. It's easy to look at it in that way. But once you get to the point where it's like, where you can actually look at it as an opportunity and understand that you're actually worth a ton, because whoever you got traded to, you know, you for Justin Upton, like, he was a hot commodity. And for you to be seen as that valuable to get dealt to Atlanta, you know, and they were willing to, yes, they were willing to part ways with you, but at the end of the day, the Braves were a team that, like, really, really, really wanted you, and they understood what kind of potential and everything that you had. So the easier we can, like, flip that mindset to looking at the optimistic side, I feel like it will allow, like, your journey to take off and flourish, because it's so easy to get caught up in, like, the oh, woe is me kind of deal, but that has never helped anybody, you know. So it's just important to realize that.
With you coming to Atlanta and you kind of getting that clean slate, which is kind of interesting because it's almost the exact opposite of Dansby, meaning Dansby had his clean slate in Arizona, and then he gets traded to Atlanta, where immediately he is swamped by either, you know, some dude that was in his second grade class that wants tickets or whatever, and you kind of get the opposite. You're going from where people know you to Atlanta. But I want to kind of talk about this. What was your mindset coming to Atlanta? So like Dansby said, first you get here, you kind of got to get over that original hump of, all right, you know, some team didn't want me, but at the end of the day, you know, the Braves did. What is your mindset that you had to work to come from? Not only you're coming from an injury, but to become one of the main guys, you know, in the Braves rotation.
It was definitely a long road, because I came back in 2016, and I just wasn't the same. Like, I was in spring training that year, I think I was like 85 to 88, maybe touching 89, just hadn't that, like, coming back from Tommy John to the point where I think I was supposed to go to high A and be with Dansby. Or were you 2016 your first year?
Yeah. High A.
Yeah. So I think I was supposed to go to high A, but I just wasn't sharp. I wasn't good. Just wasn't the same. So they sent me back to low A. I ended up spending the whole year there. So it was kind of that uphill climb of, like, trying to gain my stuff, and then obviously not playing for 2 years. Like, it took a huge hit to my confidence, where I wasn't a confident pitcher. I was out there trying to not walk hitters, I just fell into these ruts where I felt like I was, fighting myself the whole time. And I had a really, really bad year in 2017 before I got called up. I think I had like a 6 ERA in AA, and I had like 2 or 3 really good starts and kind of just got shotgunned to the big leagues. I just had no idea. It was after a late game. They were like, hey, you're going to the big leagues tomorrow. Pack your stuff and get going. And at that point, I was already looking forward to going to the fall league and trying to like get myself back on track, and got up to the big leagues. And it was kind of that, you're going to be in the bullpen, and I've never pitched in the bullpen. So the first time, coming out of the bullpen was in the big leagues and making that run in from the outfield. But the way I kind of saw it was, I don't know if I'm ever going to get this opportunity again, because this is such a one-off. Like at that point, I probably didn't have the stats to justify me being there, but now that I'm here, I don't know if I'm ever going to get this opportunity again. So I'm going to make the most of it. I'm going to leave it all out there. And if this is the only chance that I get, I don't want to have any regrets. And when I kind of went out there, I let it out all on the field, and I found out that, I had some decent stats that year, and I was like, okay, well, maybe I can actually do this. And kind of after that, it was just one building block after the other, where I got a little bit more confidence, a little more experience. And then it kind of all came. I'm not going to say it all came together, because I'm still trying to figure it out even to this day, but it started clicking a little bit when spring training last year, me and Rick Kranitz, our pitching coach, were just kind of like, hey, let's get back into a more athletic delivery, use your athleticism, and let's start attacking guys and going after them and making them beat you with your stuff. So he kind of drilled that in me, gave me this vote of confidence that he said that, like, your stuff is really good. I believe in you. Now you just have to believe in yourself and get out there and get going. And kind of having that, he sat down with, it was like a couple guys, and we kind of from there, especially with the support that I got from teammates like, Dansby, and then having, kind of older veteran guys being able to take me through it. Like last year it was BMAC, and obviously Flo's been here the whole time. So being able to have those guys really just have that confidence in you and just keep injecting it. And at that point I was like, okay, let's go win ball games and make the most of it. It's kind of where I stood.
I want to, this is like a 2-part question, but the first question
No
is, how long was that run from the bullpen to the mound that first time? and what was going through your head?
Well, you get that third out, and as soon as you see that third out and they open up that gate, you're like, my heart was beating out my chest, 100%. And then me, the adrenaline pumping. Obviously, I've never pitched in front of that many people to that point, because it was I can't even remember what it was, like a midweek game against Philly at home, and it was like the 8th inning, 7th, 8th inning. I'm running in from the pen, and I knew that I started running way too quick. And by the time that I hit the infield dirt, I was huffing and puffing. Because obviously you're getting ready in the pen. So me in the pen, I'm, way too hot. And, really I'm ready to go. And then I sprint out to the mound. And by the time I get to the dirt, I'm breathing heavy. Everything was a blur. Don't remember anything else. I remember getting on the mound, and my first hitter was to Cameron Rupp, and I threw him 3 straight pitches that were not even close. That, like, I went 3-0 real quick. And my only thought process, and I still remember this as a day, was don't throw it to the backstop. Just throw it and make it to the catcher. I was like, just don't throw it to the backstop. We'll figure it out. Because at this point, it was the most adrenaline I've ever felt. I couldn't feel my legs. I couldn't feel anything. I went 3-0. I threw 1 heater, 3-1, and I was like, okay, we're back. And then the very next pitch, I spiked in the dirt. It was ball 4. So guy got on base, and then it was kind of just like figure it out from there. Ended up getting out of that inning. I think it was some crazy play at the end of I think I got out of it with, like, Freddie picked a ball at first, and then from his knees threw a ball home and tagged a guy out at the plate to like end the inning. So saved a run and also like had a crazy start to my career. I was like, okay, well, you know,
We're in it
figure it
now.
out.
Here we go.
Yeah, we're ready. So went out there, had one more inning, and it was from there it kind of just got going. But yeah, that run from the pen is definitely no joke.
I just be
It's
bro,
so long.
Don't trip. Don't trip.
You've never felt so self-conscious about your run in your life. You're like, I better like perfect form this, like going to.
He's got like the straight like hands.
Forrest
I guess this could be a question for both of y'all. Like I've hung out with both of y'all or whatever, and like y'all are both like super lax, like chill dudes. So like, what's like your pre-game routine to kind of like flip that switch into like competitive, like let's go eat type mentality?
Well, I mean, mine's gonna be a little bit different than Max because he's got to kind of get there once every 5 days, at least for in game. Whereas mine's an everyday thing. So we're both routine oriented people. And it's different home and road because you have a little bit, not different routines, but like at home, you know, obviously, can get out and about a little bit more. Just because, you know, you have a car and you if you want to go pick up breakfast, you can do that. Or, whereas when you're on the road, you kind of right now these days, you have to pretty much just be at the hotel, you know, and just kind of be confined by these four walls. But I'd say for me, I've been trying to base a lot of my decisions on like what's going to fuel me to be my better self, which I know will then allow me to be a better player. So that's part of that starts with sleep, drinking water, like Max just did, drinking water. But then I don't think people necessarily realize like the preparation that goes into every day. Like whenever we get off this podcast, like I'm going to dive into we're facing Porcello tonight. So dive into like our advanced reports and stuff on him, and just kind of see ways that I think he's going to try and pitch me or ways that I know that I will be successful tonight, in my approach and game plan and stuff. So that's an everyday thing, and it can take anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour, just depending on how many guys you need to go over and what you need to be prepared for. So I think, like for me, what I've noticed the biggest difference in this year is like when I show up to the field, I've felt so much more like confidence in myself to just be myself and know that that's plenty enough. Like God gave me, just kind of what we talked about last week, like God gave me certain qualities and all that matters is that I'm living up to those qualities, and kind of like impacting the people around me by being who I am. And it's not really exhausting being yourself, like it's actually very like liberating being able to just go out and be you. But I would say, like kind of as the day goes along, you start getting more and more and more dialed in. Just I'll give you an example. Like today, got to get there a little bit earlier because I have to do media at 3:30, and then I need to do like a little light like workout lift today, and then kind of like you get dialed in with some of your pregame work as far as doing my drills with Wash or doing my stuff in the cage, and then once BP hits, that like kind of takes it a little bit to another level where you're kind of like dialing it in even more when it comes to your skill set, and kind of preparing yourself mentally to play the game. And then after that, you get a little bit of time down just to grab a little bite to eat before the game. But once you kind of finish up with that and you start like changing, for me, like once I change, I'm very dialed in and try and visualize what's going to happen that night and like see myself as successful. And then, basically once I get up from my chair, like I'm not going to say I'm not a huge music listener before games, but like I'm not like trying to get super hyped up, because if I get super hyped up, like it's not going to work out well for me. Like I try and be like as like calm and like almost like meditative to like connect to myself before I go play, because I know that person is going to be able to be successful. And then the one big thing that I've really noticed myself the last probably like month is just going out and just like trusting myself. Like I've prepared, and that's all that I can do. So I gain all the confidence in the world knowing that I prepared the right way today. Now I'm just going to go play, and whatever happens, what happens. And any adjustments I need to make in game, I'll make. But I just try and go and trust my athleticism and trust, like the instinctual, brain that God gave me to just go play the game and know what to do. And if it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, it doesn't. You learn from it and you go about the next day. Which I think this kind of conversation is something like me and Max have really talked about because of our own stories, and how, he said that kind of lost a lot of his confidence, and the same kind of happened for me, after my rookie year, and I didn't really know who I was as a player. And we've really gotten to the point where once we play, like once the game starts, we are competing like in the game, like we aren't trying to solve our mechanics on the mound, like as we're pitching. Like it's all about like, how can I make this next pitch? And like, for me, it's not like, oh my goodness, like I'm like this shoulder is going this way and like my hand's going this way. Like you just go up there and just trust with your preparation and you go and do it. And that for me has really helped me a lot because, and we can talk about this more too, but like, how do you gain confidence, And for me, it's really learning that your confidence is a direct correlation from your preparation. So.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I know that the more confident I feel is due to the fact that I'm as prepared as possible, knowing like what to expect, kind of having an idea of some different scenarios that are going on, maybe a plan A, B, C, especially for me with attacking hitters and that kind of stuff. Being able to make sure that you're prepared is huge. But also for me, I have a tendency to try to do too much. I want to do more. I want to throw the perfect pitch. I want to throw it a little harder. So I have a tendency to kind of like want to do more. So for the one thing that I've kind of noticed is I need to try to be that more even keeled, like Dansby was saying, more of that meditative state, being able to walk around on my start days, whereas before you couldn't talk to me, you couldn't look at me. I had my headphones in the whole entire day, and it was like, oh, Max is pitching today, like stay away from him. He wants nothing to do with it, to the point where I'm making like a conscious effort to be out there and talk to my teammates and kind of treat it as a normal game, and then allow myself to just go out there and have fun and compete. I think one of the biggest things for me has been able to see, Ronald and Ozzy literally every day. Like those guys go out there and they play like it's a game. Like it's, like they're going out there and playing Little League or travel ball. There's still that joy that they play with, and they're always smiling and walking around. So I try to take a little bit of that, because at the end of the day, it is still a game, and you're still have that gamesmanship. And everyone's going to be there out there and competing. It's our nature. You don't get to this point of kind of this level of play without being a competitive person. So the ones that allow their abilities to kind of take over without getting in their own way, I feel like have the most success.
Yeah. And I was just going to add real quick, like one thing that and we don't have to get into all the little secrets of it, but one thing that Max has taught me a lot about too is like different ways to prepare, not even just like at the field, but the whole like mentally and how to come up with game plans and stuff, because we obviously have all the analytics in the world now. And, we have a special site that's dedicated to, we can find literally anything and everything. Like you can look up on there how I hit against right-handed fastballs in like one specific part of the zone, and you can really dive into as like detailed as you want. And something that's like always impressed me with him, because we sat next to each other on the plane, so I would see it. He'd be doing his game plans and stuff as we were. We could like talk about certain things and bounce ideas off of one another. Is the work never stops, right? Like if we're on the plane, like a 3-hour flight, like tonight we're getting into Tampa at 3 in the morning, 3:30 in the morning, and like there will be some type of like preparation on the plane. The work really never stops. But the amount of detail that goes into it, and I think where Max gets a lot of his confidence too, at least just from the outside in that I see, is that like he knows exactly what he wants to do. When they have the pitcher catcher meetings like before starts, like he runs it. Like, he doesn't allow other people to tell him what to do. Like, he is very prepared for those moments because he understands that, like, this is what I do best and this is how I'm going to go about the day and this is what I believe is right. And he's willing to ride or die with, like, what he knows is going to benefit, like, the team because he's pitching, but he knows he's going to ride or die with what he believes in is going to work for whoever he's facing. So, which I've always loved. And the other thing that we talk about too is, like, dying with your strengths, you know, like going with your strengths. If a right-handed guy hits lefty curveballs really well, I remember Max would always tell me, like, but he hasn't seen my curveball. Like, my curveball is different than Joe Schmo's, you know, lefty breaking ball. Like, mine is better. I'm going, like, I can't just throw out a pitch because this guy hits it well. You know, I'll just need to make sure that I'm making a better pitch. Yeah, you know, so I think so many times, like, it's easy to shy away from our strength because somebody else, like, your strength may also be their strength. It's like, well, am I just going to all of a sudden shy away from that? Like, no, I'm going to bet on myself. And it's something that's always kind of, like, impressed me with him, but also that we've been able to kind of, like, help and instill in one another. It's like, no, bro, like, you can attack it like this, I promise you, and everything's going to be okay. And it's just like, sometimes we all need that extra reassurance of belief in ourselves or confidence. And I just think it's important.
And I was going to say, not to cut you off, but that goes for anybody in life, right? Because it goes back to, you have to be confident in yourself. And it's the same thing where, you know, if you're going up against a guy, like you said, where, you know, he hits curveballs well, and he says, well, he hasn't hit my curveball. You know, he's confident in his skill set. It's the same thing with anything in life and what any of the listeners are doing. Yeah, you're not a professional athlete, but if you're good at doing something, you can't let the opinion of a sheep dictate what you're going to do. Because if you start listening to outside forces, and this is anything, like, especially like with you two being professional athletes, I mean, if you listen to what anybody said, it just destroys your confidence in what you're trying to do, right? You have this skill set that is great for you. Just like for Mitch. If Mitchell creates a t-shirt and he thinks it's dope, well, if somebody off the street goes, that's whack. Okay, well, I just had 20K in sales, so apparently nobody thinks that it's whack. You know what I mean? Like, you just may think that it's whack, but you can't, if you're listening to this, you cannot allow, and we talk about this all the time, the opinions of others really does not matter. It's what you have confidence in yourself, and it's what you can use that certain skills to use. And I love that. That's that. You know, he hasn't seen my curveball yet.
Well, and the other, like, it's not that, and we said this before, it's not that, like, nobody's opinion matters. Like,
correct.
Screw everybody. But that's
Obviously.
But the thing is, you understand whose opinion is valuable to you and whose you know that you can trust. Like, if Joe Schmo on the street tells me, you know, quit swinging at the slider in the dirt, I'll be like, well, yeah, I mean, who doesn't know that, right? Like, but at the same time, his opinion isn't as valuable for me as maybe, you know, if I'm talking to Max about it, or if I'm talking to,
correct.
You know, like, if Mal has an opinion about something, like, it's probably going to be more spot on than somebody that doesn't know me. And so you can put more eggs in certain baskets depending on who it is that's telling you certain things. But at the end of the day, you don't need to lose the freedom of, like, thinking for yourself, because that's, you thinking for yourself is going to lead you to help you become the best version of you. Other people can guide you along, but you're not going to be able to get there if you're not thinking for yourself first. Like, not in a selfish way. I'm saying, if you need to be able to self-reflect and understand what to do, as opposed to someone always telling you what it is that you need to do.
Correct. And kind of going back to the how you prepare for the game, I'm reading that book, Relentless. And so he describes it as being a cleaner, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the idea is, you're not the guy that's always hyping everybody up. You're not the guy that's always down. You're kind of mellow, so that when you're in kind of contact with your emotions, you have the ability to go whichever way, and you can react to all certain situations, and be active as well, not just reactive to everything. For sure.
Yeah.
I was just going to go back to the, you know, he hasn't seen my curveball yet type deal. And, you know, you want to play to your strengths, definitely. And, like, you know, someone might be better that day than you, and that it's not the end of the world, you know. Like, Max be like, Anthony, my curveball, and then, takes it off or something, But next time, but then it's like,
all the
okay.
time.
Yeah. And so, okay,
Check it off.
how do I make sure that does not happen? Like, what do I need to do?
Or like in baseball, like Dansby says, everybody's a professional. So Max may throw a perfect pitch, and someone may just flick who did that yesterday? Was it Cespedes? Flicked his hands out there and went up the middle.
Yeah. Off Aaron. Yeah. I know.
And it's like that was a good pitch, and he just flicked his hand. Okay, tip your cap. He made a good play. Oh well.
I feel like that's kind of the same thing as though in life. Like you can do everything right, and sometimes it just doesn't work out. But once it's in the past, are you going to let that affect you, or are you going to allow that experience to give you something to take from it, learn, and then change it the next time? So you might have thrown for instance, like you might have thrown the perfect pitch, but he might have been looking for it in that spot. So you might have executed your pitch well, but it might not have been at the right time. And so I feel like a lot of it has to do with like timing and also being able to, just learn from past experiences and use it going forward.
And it's definitely an extreme for you, Max. But like, here's the thing is, there's another batter coming in the box after that.
Right after that.
So you sit there and dwell on it. It's not going to be good.
Yeah, that's how innings blow up, and well, it's just like, Max said, you can do everything right and it still not work out. Like in life, like you make all the right decisions or pitches, and the sales meeting like still doesn't go how you expected it. But at the end of the day, that's when we talk about going back to our process. Like one of the big things that I've been trying to focus on this year is our analytical team will put together a report for me after every game and send to me like my at bats. And so I get +1 and -1 depending on pitches I'm swinging at, or I'll get a 0 if it's like neutral. But judging my days on, am I swinging at the right pitches? Am I, putting the barrel on the ball? Instead of just looking at like, oh, yesterday I was 1 for 4. Like, I could have been better. It's like, well, yesterday I was +17, or I was +9 on 17 pitches of like decision making. Like that's really good. Like that's a good process oriented day. And sometimes like that's what I'm saying. The more that we can go back to saying, am I making the right decisions? Am I doing the right things? Whether or not it works out in my favor in the end, we don't need to all of a sudden transform who we are and change who we are just so we can basically have that instant gratification of earning a quick buck, or me just making sure I'm trying to get just this one hit. Because at the end of the day, I'm trying to set myself up in position for success for this year. It's 60 games worth, but normally it's, 500 at bats. I'm trying to put myself in the best possible position for 500, not just for 10 out of 500,
Yeah.
And it's a hard thing to trust, because a couple of days going 0 for 4, you're like, good Lord, like this is not fun. But at the end of the day, if I keep trusting that process and putting in my work, over 500, I'll be right where I want to be.
Right.
And the same thing goes, just for anybody in any profession, just continually making the right decisions, and those small little victories in each day will add up to where you want to be, in the end. It's just a hard thing to trust. Like it's so hard, because I'm just now learning it, a little bit now. And luckily been able to kind of put the tools in place that are going to help me basically get to that point and judge each day based on like, am I making the right, correct decisions in the box or this and that, instead of saying, oh, did I get a hit or did I not?
Well, you just got to be confident in what you're doing. Like especially with you guys, like you just got to be confident in what you're doing. It's like the, Deion Waiters quote, I'd rather go 0 for 16 than 0 for 4, because if I went 0 for 4, it means I gave up on myself. Like
Right.
I'm just going to keep shooting. Like it's going to go in. And baseball's so hard too. Someone would be like, oh, well, Dansby's 0 for 4 in the day. Well, you could have smoked 3 of those balls, and they just could have been right at somebody.
Yeah. There was when they sent me, when we were kind of talking about how we wanted to set up this little like report at the end of the day, Justin Turner does it out in LA, and they kind of use that like same format, and they put together just a couple from last year. And there was one, I was like an overall like +20 or something like that on the day, and I was 0 for 4. And it's like, it's easy to look at as an 0 for 4 instead of looking at it as like, oh, I was +20. Like I put myself in a position to succeed. It just like didn't happen
That
today.
day, it just wasn't there.
And that allows you to just like go about the next day and say, all right, like here it is again. Like, we can just go play and do our thing and live up to a different standard than just like, did I get a hit or did I not get a hit? You know,
that just goes back to kind of evolving that mindset instead of focusing on so many of the negatives, being able to step back, be like, all right, well, I did do this, and this right. You know, how do I continue on that path instead of just bringing myself down? It's like, oh, well, like, I'm trash.
Correct.
And you could just be feeling good about it. I mean, you know, your stat could not be there, but it's kind of like, and I guess all of us know this, if you're playing basketball, the ball may, like every time you shoot it, it may feel really good out of your hands. It may just be a little off. Well, that is, at the end of the game, they're like, all right, well, you only got, 4 or 5 points. Like, yeah, but I feel like I'm shooting it really well. And so it's just, I'm a little bit off to where when it's on, it's on. Same thing, I guess. But maybe, is this probably what we're talking about amplified for pitchers? Because Dansby, you're going to get a shot every day.
Right.
But Max is not. So is it more of a mental strain on you knowing, okay, let's say you have a rough start, or maybe you want to try to get 6 innings or seven innings in and you only get 4. How does your, I feel like it's got to be amplified for him.
You just got to sit there for,
Well, number one,
4 days.
Yeah, number one, you come off the bump and you're pissed.
Yeah. Because
you know your objective was not accomplished, right? And then either sometimes you get lucky where the defense is very good behind you, other times it's 4-0 or whatever it may be. But it's got to be amplified for you, for your mental state of great. Now, and maybe that gives you more confidence the next time of, I know I can do this. These are the things I need to do. But what is that kind of like for you having to have that weight?
I'm not gonna lie. It sucks. Just being able to go out there and, have a rough one, and then knowing that you have to wait 4 or 5 days until you go back out there again. It's tough. Especially growing up playing, the outfield and first base, and knowing that, tomorrow if I have a rough one, I can go back out there and do it again. So that's kind of the toughest part, but I think it goes back to what Dansby said, just being process oriented instead of result oriented. You can get real hung up on the results because you can go out there and, like you said, you can go out there and not execute and have 17 line drives right at guys and come out with, a scoreless outing, or you can go out there and give up 10 singles and give up 5 runs and you felt like you threw the ball really well. For me, it's all about simplifying your approach and not getting too hung up on results. So if I go out there and have like a few things that I'm focusing on, with the main one just going out there and competing and trying to win the ball game no matter what happens, I know that I'm probably going to have a lot better outing and a lot better game than if I'm going out there being like, I need to strike out 10 to 12 guys and I need to throw a 0, because then at that point you're trying to be perfect rather than just going out there and playing the game.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I've kind of noticed that, but it's, yeah, I guess the toughest part is getting away from the results, because obviously everything is predicated off whether, for us, your salary, basically what you're known for is your stats. The thing that they show up under your name every single time you go out there, your stats and how you're contributing. So if you can try to take that out of the equation and just focus on a few of the things that you can control rather than the stuff that you can't control, I feel like it just sets yourself up for more success.
Yeah, which I think is like, it's hard in our profession, especially because every time you see our name, it's linked with something that we've done, so it's always like that constant distraction and pressure of like, when my name comes up on the board, it doesn't say, proud donator to, Atlanta Children's Shelter and, West National Dream Center and, has done this for whatever. Yeah, it says like over 3, strikeout, L9 and, F8. Like it doesn't say anything about who you are, or it doesn't say Dansby Swanson really tries to be process oriented. It doesn't say that like on the scoreboard. It says shortstop number 7, and this is basically what he's done today. And it's easy to get have your identity start to get wrapped up in those results, because that's what's like closely and directly related to our name, especially, you know, with fans or people in the front office or whoever. Like, that's just the nature of our game, which is why I think, you know, it's been important for me each day, you know, when I get up and before I go to bed, to remind myself like who I am, remind myself like what that identity is, remind myself the things that I can control, and focus on the person that I want to be. Because the more that I can kind of put that, you know, in my brain, the more I'm going to relate my identity to a certain thing, which we kind of talked about last week. You know, like, the more I'm going to be able to relate my identity to my purpose and not have the other things kind of get in the way and get me sidetracked. Because at the end of the day, in the grand scheme of things, and every athlete has a small window, like in this whole spectrum of life, to capitalize on, you know, that time. But in the grand scheme of things, it really just is a game. And the more that we can, you know, impact the world around us, our teammates, you know, the staff, you know, and the people in the community, like, then that is when we are truly going to be, you know, kind of thriving. So that's just kind of how I've started to try and look at it, and, you know, been doing my exercises and stuff like that remind me of that person each day. And that way, whatever comes my way, like, I've mentally prepared to handle those things. You know, like, just like we talked about, you know, when Max goes out and pitches, he obviously does all his physical activation and warm up, and he doesn't just go right on the mound and start pitching. Like, he does a bunch of different things to get ready, you know. And the same thing goes for the mental part of life. Like, I have my stuff that I do each morning and night to kind of get myself into that place where I can perform life at the highest level possible.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I know you all have a busy day today, so we'll try to wrap it up here. But before we head out, Max, give us real quick, if you had to, we try to do this with everybody, if you had to tell people, like, what is the one or two most important things you do to be the best version of yourself, what would it be for you?
I would say there's probably two things. It's just treat everyone. I mean, it's that simple saying of, like, treat everyone, the golden rule. Just, like, treat everyone the way you want to be treated. Being compassionate and empathetic to other people, and just realizing that someone's probably going through something, and, you know, just not taking anything too personally. But also, I think my biggest one is surround people that are going to uplift you and that are going to challenge you and hold you to a higher standard. Because I feel like you are a direct impact, or you're a product of the people that you surround yourself around. And for me, I've been really fortunate to have some really good friends and really good family that have helped me kind of shape into the person that I am. And I know that, you know, all my friends and all the people that I kind of am around seem to be highly driven and really respectful, and just the people that, you know, I look around and I'm like, I want to be a better person because the people I'm around are doing really great things, and that makes me want to be better. So just kind of having those people that can push you and also call you out. And one thing that I've been really fortunate with Dansby is the fact that, you know, he's always wanting to get better. He's always looking to do something to better himself and also other people. So when you surround yourself around those, it kind of motivates you to just be the best person that you can possibly be.
Yes,
Thanks, man. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
I got it.
Are you reading any books right now?
I am. I'm in the middle of two. I'm about to start. I got put onto that Malcolm Gladwell series, so I think I'm going to start The Outliers soon.
Great book.
And I also, in the middle of, with everything going on, I picked up How to Be an Anti-Racist. It was just something that I wanted to be able to kind of educate myself on a little bit more, and kind of give me some good understandings of, you know, what's going on, different terminologies, and being able to just learn. But yeah, those are the kind of the two things that I'm kind of into right now. How about you?
I just finished a book called Perfectly Yourself by Matthew Kelly. I'm pretty sure that's something that we may or may not have talked about a little bit on here. It's if you lately seen any like tidbits that I put on Instagram, it's been from that book. I just started another one by Bruce Wilkinson. I forget the name of it, but it's basically about how to recognize. It's just kind of like miracles in the modern day and age, and just about how to kind of hear God's voice a little bit more clearly, and how to, like, when he nudges on you, allow his power to work. Like, you don't have to be the one. You're like the vehicle, like you're delivering it, but you're not necessarily the driver. And how sometimes, like, in this day and age, we can shy away from, we can kind of like resist those things because we don't necessarily understand, like, how a miracle can happen, because it's hard for us to fathom, but kind of letting God just do his thing. Like, God's got the power and he's going to do it through you. You're not the one actually doing it. He's the one doing it. So it's been a pretty interesting read so far. It just kind of helps you open your eyes a little bit when it comes to, how to treat people, but also how to listen to that little voice in you that is pulling you and telling you like the right or wrong things to do.
Yeah. No, I got it.
I got another like BS question. Okay. Max, how piped up do you get to like run the bases?
One more time, sorry.
How piped up are you when you get to like base run and stuff?
Oh,
Show that football and basketball athleticism.
It kept me locked into every single game last year. Don't think I'm going to be able to with the DH and having a lot more guys on the bench this year. Don't think I'm going to get to do it, but I was ready. I was ready every game. It'd be the fifth inning, and I knew that if it was a tie game or if we were down, I would go into the clubhouse and get my spikes on and just get ready. And every single time I'd just like start looking at the lineup, start seeing where the catchers were, if the catchers were getting on base, getting stretched out.
Talking about those veteran catchers.
Yeah, I honestly though, like, I loved it. I felt, you feel like sometimes being a pitcher, you don't feel like an athlete and you feel like you're kind of stuck. But when you get out there on the bases, it's way different between, the sliding and being able to run. And then obviously the whole like first to home thing that happened last year was
I was about to bring that up, dude.
Electric.
He's like diving headfirst
I
into the
know.
home with his left arm out, and everybody in the dugout's like, no, and then he scores. We're like, yes,
Yeah.
no, like, I don't know, like, why did he do
We're
that?
the same way, but so piped up.
It was a lot of, great job, but don't ever do that again. So
I was gonna say, since we're talking about, the left arm, some Braves may not want to hear this. We need to get like a one-on-one game with y'all two, basketball.
But
I need to see it.
run it.
I'm in.
I need to see it.
I'm
Do
in.
all things loyal presents brought to you by the Melting Pot. 3 first hands.
Oh God.
Braves.
Oh yeah, we'll run twos.
Yeah.
Me and
We'll
Mace.
bring you to the cul-de-sac where Dansby.
Love
I
it.
don't know if Dansby knows about this chain net we've been hooping on over here. So.
Oh yeah.
Lord.
Oh.
Situation you don't want.
Yeah, we've been practicing. That's awesome.
Left hand's nice.
All right, bro.
Anyways, we appreciate y'all.
Yeah, good looks.
Good looks. Congrats on the first dub yesterday.
Appreciate it. Thank you guys.
Nice.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah. So I guess what do y'all got going on now? What time are you gonna be at the field? Like 30?
I'm leaving like an hour.
Yeah.
What bus you taking, Max?
I don't know. We got like a 220, 240.
Yeah, I'm taking
So I've like kind of folded my clothes, but I haven't packed it. So I'll probably try to do that.
So 240.
Yeah. So either the 220 or the 240 probably.
Yeah, I need to pack.
The 2 o'clock.
Dude,
The 2 o'clock's probably gonna be full.
Yo, I'm big flexing. So tonight, I'm wearing like dress code to the field. Well, kind of dress code, not really. But after, I'm packing a sweatsuit and I'm changing into a sweatsuit after the game.
Wow.
We need to do some
That's a
things,
power
little,
move.
some
I'm just
all
gonna
things
do
little
it. I'm just gonna,
sweatsuits.
dude. We're traveling in the middle of the night. I'm just gonna do it, and if they have something to say, then I'll just pay my $100 fine and
What,
tell them I'll probably do it again. Because like
What are you supposed to wear?
Hey,
They
I want
want us to wear, like-
one of those new. I want one of those new Good Energy
Oh, yeah.
sweatsuits. One of those
Yeah,
new
I need to get
sweatshirts.
some sweatpants and some matching sweatpants.
Which is kind of crazy that those
I'll send you
joggers
that
don't
video.
sell.
I don't even think they're like.
We don't advertise them, but those things are
I need a
nothing.
matching sweatsuit. I'm talking stripes on the arms.
But no, what they want us to wear is like
I'm talking mafia
they say
boss.
casual. They say casual, but that means a freaking collar and like all this stuff.
Jeans
like-
and nice shoes.
Yeah, I'm like, I'll wear that to the field. I'm wearing Air Forces to the field today.
You're crazy. Luke's been
Dude,
wearing.
I'm telling you, they want to start doing that. It's just they don't have the balls to say it. So I'm just gonna start
Luke-
doing
Be the
it.
push. Be the.
Luke's wearing Travis Scott's to the field. The
I know.
Travis Scott
I know.
Jordans.
Yes,
and
Greeny
he
was
also
wearing
wore 'em on the plane.
like high top blazers, like the Nike Blazers. So I'm like, I'm gonna wear jeans with holes in them, even though we're not supposed to. I'm wearing that and Air Forces, and if they have something to say, then like I'll just say okay.
Make it happen.
I'll pay my fine, keep it moving.
Dan's
Yeah,
trying to be like
I respect it.
Dan's trying to be like the AI of baseball.
Practice. Talking about practice.
Talking about just wearing some tall tees down to your knees to the field.
So funny.
Shorts that go down to your ankles.
Some Dickies. Like,
Oh, I would pay to see you in some Dickies. And then I would pay to see your father's face after he saw you in some Dickies.
Gotta love that.
Wearing.
But yeah, I'm gonna do that. So we'll see how it goes. But I'm like, I'm gonna be comfortable on this plane, this 2.5, 3 hour flight down to Tampa. And if I want, I'm gonna put the Mark Pro on, like be comfy.
always gotta
Hey,
be
man.
comfy.
All power to you. I just don't have the balls to do that.
Well, normally I'm not a rule breaker either, but I'm just gonna do it.
Sometimes you just gotta.
You're in the middle of a pandemic. Tell them that.
What the hell do they
No one
expect?
sees us anyways. That's what I'm saying. Like, no one sees us, so who cares?
I
They
know.
they even folded on the whole BP thing because at first they're like, no, we don't like no pants, like just wear whatever. Like nobody's there.
Yeah.
And then it
literally.
turned into no, we should probably wear it. And I went to Snit's office yesterday. I'm like, yo, those BP tops are ass. Like they're literally trash bags. They're terrible. I'm like, no one wants to wear those. I didn't say it just like that. I was just like, hey, can we wear as long as we have Atlanta A on our
Yeah.
t-shirt, like you should be straight.
But here we are, wearing trash bags.
Wearing trash bags. Max is going to wear
You know, I might go get 18 in while y'all are
I shot 88 the other day.
Damn.
Really?
Damn.
Yeah.
Okay.
Moving. Max,
How many mulligans?
Of course you go. None. I actually didn't use one. Front or back.
Max got them horses out there. Let's go.
I know. I asked you to go off and I realized.
I gave up on golf. I gave up on golf after I got frustrated because I don't play. So, like, I still think that I can be really good, but I definitely don't put the
I feel
time
you.
in to be good.
Same.
So
frustrated.
Except for I do put
I'm out there and I hit like my first 2 tee shots OB, and next thing you know, like if I'm keeping score,
hitting 5.
however many over, and then I birdie par 2 or 3 holes in a row, and I'm like,
I'm back.
yeah. Most of the time, honestly, the way it really goes is the first 12 holes are just a complete mess, and then I put it together for the last 6, and I end up birdieing the last 2 holes, so I always want to go back.
Yeah.
But I always know that the
Yeah.
first, 12 are miserable.
Mine's the opposite. I'm like good 12, and then like the last 6, I'm about 5 or 6
Just
beers
fall
deep.
apart.
5 or 6 beers deep, and I'm just there for the environment.
But I could go.
That works.
I could go and hit terrible shots the whole time, and then be on 18 and hit one solid pitching wedge and be like, "That's it.
See, mine
That's
is
what it was. I fixed
Yeah,
it."
yeah, dude, I'm the same way. And like that's what I'm like. What I really want to do is just at some point really dive into it, like almost have somebody that not Evans, but like somebody that I can actually play with and can coach me. And like I could go hit 100 balls at the driving range, and they could like help me with my swing.
Why don't you
See,
make
that's
it
what I-
professional?
Fitted,
See, that's
make
what
sure
I
I
gotta
got the
do.
right clubs.
I
And
want
then
to get
just like
fitted.
start playing.
That's what I gotta do. But I just like, well, let's just go play 18. I'll figure it out.
It's a mess
Feel
out
guilty
there.
that feel guilty that I'd be putting my time into golf, and when I should probably be putting it into more baseball. But
Nah, you gotta
So
have
probably-
some. You gotta have some
Get out there on the links
relaxation.
with us.
Come on, we got a couple
That's-
courses we'll
that's
show
my-
you around.
I'm full into
Bas-
video games. So for me, I just like I rip video games and I get my frustration and I yell at the TV screen. So that's kind of my like
At least you're,
therapy.
yeah, and at least it's
My
in
therapy
private.
is just like getting mad at my video games, and I would like golf to be relaxing and competitive, but I always throw my clubs and I get way too frustrated.
About
I get
the-
so
with the hills.
pissed.
We'll take you to Mason's home course.
Take you to my home course, Max. There's nobody out there.
His self-proclaimed
That's
home
yeah,
course.
that's my home course. It's where Trevor Lawrence plays. You can go out there and see him.
No,
It's in Cartersville.
about
About 30.
$25-30 a pop.
Yeah.
So I
You
don't
know,
know.
for us average Joe, that's money.
I mean, we're cruising.
oh, that's
$30
a solid round.
I mean, Dansby's going to pay a $100 fee today, so he
You
could have
can
got
pay for
3
3
rounds.
rounds.
He got 1, 2, and 3 right there. So and you go there, it's nice and open.
They might even let you wear ripped jeans there.
Ooh,
Yeah, they might.
They probably
it's one
let
of
you go
those
naked
it's one of
there.
those
They don't-
trendy spots, huh?
It's in the middle of
No,
nowhere,
but they
and
really
it actually is pretty nice, but they really don't care.
Yeah, you can just bring your own cooler in that bitch. They don't do that.
Yeah. Mark's like, what you got in there? I'm like, beer. He's like, nice.
All right.
All right. I'm gonna catch you on the turn.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah.
Nice.
Let me know if you need some ice at,
Yeah,
at
if
the
you need
turn.
ice, I'll get you the turn. All right, buddy.
Stop the
Oh,
cart lady.
shit.
There is no cart lady.
They just,
Oh.
they don't care out
Well,
there.
actually, there usually is, but there's not during
Yeah.
this crisis. But
Ugh.
it's a riot.
Yeah, we'll get out there.
We'll get you out there, get you a hot dog and Snickers at the turn. to
I'll
hold
tell you,
up.
Max, you'll feel a lot better about your golf game if you let me ride in the car with you.
We'll put Mitchell in the car with you, and you'll be feeling like you tiger.
Yeah.
Hey, as long as we're going out there and having a good time,
We will, bro.
that's all. I
We're just
care
Oh, that's
about.
all
we're
we
just-
know.
We're just gonna have to hug the tree line on the right. Because that's
As long
where
as
you're
I
gonna
got
be.
enough. I'll
that's where
bring
you're
a
gonna be
couple
dropping
box
me
of
off.
balls and
Uh-huh.
we'll have a blast.
Yeah.
Oh, it'll be a great time.
Oh, shit. All right. I got to
All right,
go.
boys.
fellas.
We'll see
Appreciate
ya.
it.
Me too.
Appreciate